All right, let's go to the Trump town hall. We talked earlier about Trump saying he would pardon many of the January 6th Capitol rioters. Here is the exchange with Caitlin Collins from last night.
Will you pardon the January 6th rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one because a couple of them probably they got out of control. But, you know, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa, look at what they've done to Minneapolis and so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. Many people were killed. These people, I'm not trying to justify anything, but you have two standards of justice in this country, and what they've done, and I love that question, because what they've done to so many people is nothing. And then what they've done to these people, they've persecuted these people. And yeah, my answer is I am most likely, if I get in, I will most likely, I would say it will be a large portion of them. You know, they did and it'll be very early on. And they're living in hell right now.
So when it comes
to pardons, they're living in hell. And they're policemen, and they're firemen, and they're soldiers, and they're carpenters and electricians, and they're great people. Many of them are just great people.
Mr. President, one of the people who was convicted was a former policeman, but he was convicted of attacking a police officer, I should note. But when you said you are considering pardoning a large portion of those charged with crimes on January 6th, does that include the 4 Proud Boys members who were charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy?
I don't know. I'd have to look at their case, but I will say in Washington, D.C., you cannot get a fair trial. You cannot. Just like in New York City, you can't get a fair trial either.
Speaking of New York,
I like the fact that he said he's not trying to justify anything, and then also he does not say there towards the 4 that are being held. He hasn't looked specifically at their case, so I like all that. And he's not wrong when he talks about the Antifa violence. If you just add up the numbers and the destruction of property and everything, all the Antifa stuff far outweighs what happened on January 6th from a damage or who got hurt and who got killed standpoint. It's just the setting is obviously much more different when it's the Capitol building. But I thought overall he handled that relatively well.
Yeah, I was a little surprised he didn't know about the Proud Boys trial, which has been going. Jury selection started last December, and we've covered it a lot because it involves Zachary Rell, the
He needs to listen to Kayal and Company.
Yeah. Does? Yeah. Why isn't he? Yeah. So I was surprised that. But I guess he's got a lot going on. But
I'm willing to bet he knows about that, but he doesn't have the specifics off the top of his head, and I don't think he wants to shoot himself in the foot there.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's more likely to commute sentences because we've talked about Zachary locally, that he's been in prison for, 2 years and 2 months, I believe, 2 years and 3 months, and he hasn't even been sentenced for that jury finding of guilty of seditious conspiracy. That was late last week. So I think ultimately what he has done in the past is to commute rather than give a full pardon.
He talks about too not getting a fair trial in Washington or New York. The more I think about it, I don't, whether it's Washington, whether it's New York, whether it's, Biloxi, Mississippi, I don't know where you would ever have a trial with Trump and a trial amongst your peers where you're going to have unbiased individuals on either side, whether, it's 3 men and 6 women, like the jury dynamic was for E. Jean Carroll, or if it's 5 guys and 4 girls, if it's 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans. I mean, I don't believe there are very many people roaming the United States of America that are neutral on Trump. I don't know how they could be.
Yeah, it's true.
I agree with you. And we've discussed that in trying to find jurors.
Yeah.
How can you find anybody that's impartial?
Even if you sent Dorenzo out on the street right now, and him and Valdez did like a man on the street bit and just went up to people and said, hey, what are your thoughts on Donald Trump in general?
Yep.
I mean, you're not going to get somebody that says, who?
I don't really have any strong opinions. I don't really care that much.
Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah, okay. Boys in the back, speaking of Dorenzo and Daniel, I'm going on to Colin Spars with Trump, that cut. So the question asked by an attendee last night to the Trump town hall, do you agree with deploying U.S. troops to the southern border, and how would you slow the influx of migrants? And then they start off discussing that, and then it gets into the election and the wall. This clip is kind of all over the place, so, as most Trump town halls are.
The reason it's ending is because the health policy, the COVID era pandemic emergency, is coming to an end. That's what Title 42 was. You put it in place because of COVID.
True, but
when it comes to big questions about what your immigration policy would look like if you are reelected, some of your Republican rivals have criticized you for not fulfilling the promises that you made on the campaign trail, like finishing the border wall. So how did voters know that you would get those done if you're reelected?
I did finish the wall. I built a wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, and I finished it. And then I said, we have to build some more because there are areas like water going through a dam. There are some areas where a lot of people are coming. You close up one, and they come into another. And we started another 100 miles of wall. In fact, I said to my people, if we start this and don't finish it, and then we had a rigged election. I'm sorry to say it.
The election was not rigged, Mr. President. You can't keep saying that all night long.
And so then they took over and they decided not to finish it. It would have taken them 3 weeks. I built hundreds of miles of wall.
It does seem like she debates him on every topic.
She's almost like, Dad, you cannot say that all night long.
You've been yelling at my boyfriend for 2 hours. He's a good guy.
Dad, I need to use the car. You can't say that all night long, Dad. It was so it wasn't. I don't know how to say it, but it wasn't. It wasn't one of the greater Chris is saying we need a sourpuss segment of the week sponsor.
I saw that.
You saw that?
Yeah.
So it was not a sourpuss moment when she said it. It was almost, Dad. It was almost like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or the couple that's been married for too long,
Yes.
that the husband says something and the wife is constantly correcting.
Yeah. The third wife.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah.
Or maybe fourth wife.
Yeah. We continue.
Wall. If we didn't have it, it would be hard to believe it could be any worse. They're just letting people flow into our country. Look, a country has to have borders. There's never been anything like is happening to our country right now.
You built about 52 miles of new wall when you were in office, Mr. President. It wasn't the complete wall. One other thing that with
No, but I have to respond to that.
With your immigration, it was only about 52 miles of new wall.
This is what she does.
See?
Isn't it like a
Yes.
It's like a married couple. See, this is what she does. I can never finish a sentence.
Isn't she a doozy?
Yeah.
What a beauty. She's a pistol.
She just turned 31, April 7th. She was born in 1992.
Wow.
She's 5 years younger than my sister.
Trump was on to his, I think, his second wife by that point.
Yeah.
1992.
That's correct.
Yeah,
I built hundreds of miles. Some of the wall was up there, and it would be laying on the ground, rusted, rotten steel, rusted, rotten wood, and what the radical left crazy Democrats did, if there's a piece of wood laying down, they consider that a wall. I built 30-foot walls that go down 7 feet into the ground. If there was a little piece of wood sitting in the ground, they said, oh, he's not building a wall. We already had a wall. Because this is the game. They're a party of disinformation.
It's not a game, Mr. President. It's about 52 miles of new wall. One other immigration policy you had when you were in office.
I built new wall.
52 miles.
I used drywall. I did spackling. But I'm going to defend Trump here for a second, because if it's 52 miles or 100 miles or whatever the actual length of the wall is, think about that for a second. Think how long 52 miles actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine driving from point A to point B and it's 52 miles. That's pretty long. So think about that, and then think about the time frame. You know, he was in there for 4 years. The fourth year was completely disrupted thanks to COVID-19. And when you think about building these walls, think about how long Route 202 in Bluebell's been under construction for. Think about how long they've been trying to widen the Northeast Extension.
Yep.
So let's not act like 52 miles is 4 miles, and 52 miles in like 3+ years is not an accomplishment. You know, Rome wasn't built in a night.
Dawn brought up the drill baby drill comment.
Yeah.
This was a question from another one of the attendees last night, and this was that exchange.
New Hampshire to answer our questions. My question is regarding the economy. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the prices for everything skyrocket. From food to gas to utilities and insurance costs, many people's bills are up several $100s a month, including mine. If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill. So, we were energy independent. We were soon going to be energy dominant. And nobody had ever done what I did. We got oil down to $1.87. Actually, it fell lower than that in some cases. We had to save the oil companies. The price was getting so. We were doing incredibly. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country, probably the greatest economy in the history of the world. We were energy independent, soon to be energy dominant. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia put together ×2. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other nation. Any other nation. And these stupid fools ended it. And energy went from $1.87 and even lower for gasoline, for a car. They went from $1.87 to $5, $6, $7, $8, and even $9. And your electricity bills went through the roof, your heating bills went through the roof. And that's what started inflation. And it hasn't stopped because people are paying now for bacon and for eggs and for the 2 and 3 times what it was just a little while ago. We created the greatest economy in history. A big part of that economy was got you the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country, bigger than the Reagan cuts, bigger than any. And also, Caitlin, as you know, we got the biggest regulation and regulatory cuts. This place was rocking, and then we were given a gift from China. And China paid a big price. And let me tell you something. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes from China. But prior to COVID coming in, and then I rebuilt the economy again, a second time. But we had, prior to COVID coming in as from China, from Wuhan, which I said it came from Wuhan. Everybody said, oh, you're wrong about that. You're wrong. It came from Wuhan. I said it right from day one. So we had the greatest economy in the world. Here's the story. They made energy so high, and energy is all invasive. It is massive as an industry and as a cost. It lifted everything.
Mr. President,
All right, let's stop right there real quick. You notice how long there was no interruption from Collins? Because there's no rebuttal from the left on what Trump was able to do with the economy. And I need, by the way, I need drill baby drill on my board, boys in the back. That's got to be a drop. But you hit them with inflation, you hit them with gas prices, energy independence. The fact that we have all the energy we need and all the oil we need right beneath our feet and we don't touch it is a disgrace. And just yesterday, filling up my gas tank, gas now in 3 days at my local Wawa, it's gone from $3.55 to $3.68 a gallon.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what I would do if I ever saw $2.99 again. I mean, I might start siphoning it out with my mouth and just store it in big drums.
The Access Hollywood tape came up last night. Hasn't this already been?
Well, it was relevant they used it in the recent E. Jean Carroll.
I understand why they used it, but the American people have heard it, voted on it. And Trump was elected.
Did this happen after 9 o'clock?
I've
never seen this.
No, I think it happened during to Dawn's point, the E. Jean Carroll discussion. So this is Trump commenting on the Access Hollywood tape, like it's 2016 all over again. I believe this story came out this was the October surprise. Remember, October of 2016. Here was that discussion.
This trial, there was a tape deposition of you from October in it. You defended the comments that you made on that Access Hollywood tape about being able to grab women how you want. Do you stand by those comments?
I said if you're famous and rich or whatever I said, but I said if you're a star, you are, and I said women let you. I didn't say you grab. I said women let. You didn't use that word, but if you look, women let you. Now, they said, will you take that back? I said, look, for a million years, this is the way it's been. I want to be honest. This is the way it's been. I can take it back if you'd like to, but if you're a famous person, if you're a star, and I'm not referring to myself, I'm saying people that are famous, people that are
You were
stars,
asked in the deposition,
people
do you
that are
consider
rich,
yourself to be a star,
people
and you
that are
said yes.
powerful, they tend to do pretty well in a lot of different ways, okay? And you would like me to take that back? I can't take it back because it happens to be true. I said it's been true for 1 million years, approximately 1 million years, perhaps a little bit longer than that.
So you stand by those comments?
Well, I don't want to lie.
Mr. President, we have a lot of
here's what
questions.
she wants
Mr.
me to say.
President, let's
A
get to
rich
the
and
audience
famous
questions
person
tonight.
has no advantage over anyone else. Well, you do have an advantage. And I say unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
You said fortunately or unfortunately,
Well,
but Mr.
fortunately or
President, we have a lot of
unfortunately for
audience
her.
questions to get to
There's the
tonight.
pivot.
But he needed to pivot. He needed to say at that moment when he said, I'm not saying I'm doing that, I'm saying the way it is. At that, there's your moment to say, but as president, remember, I gave more jobs, I created more jobs in our nation's history for women, and particularly for black and brown women, than any president, any administration in the history of the nation. He did that.
And he was able to do it without using nonsensical things
Right.
like diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he was actually able to hire competent people.
But he needed to say that.
Yeah.
He needed to pivot right there, take that moment and say, and as for those women, we need to stand up for those women and make sure, nobody is attacking them, such as is happening right now in cities across America. Because who are the victims? When you look at in Philadelphia, we've had the conversation. Philadelphia women, Chicago, New York, women are afraid to walk down the street.
Yeah. I'm afraid sometimes. I'm afraid when I show up in here
Yeah.
at 5:10 in the morning.
Right?
Are you guys surprised that Fox didn't make this overture first to Trump?
They've had him so many times with Hannity. I mean, Hannity was just down there at Mar-a-Lago, 6 weeks ago?
In an interview, but not during a. Was it town hall? Was it a town hall thing? I don't know. I tune Hannity out.
I don't
so
know.
have
It was
no
just
idea.
when Trump had a bunch of people in one of his ballrooms.
No, I don't think. I think that there's a lot more going on with Fox backing off. And that's part of this, that Fox has been backing off of those town halls that they used to do. CNN sees this opportunity. And that's why I thought it was interesting that last night Hannity had, among the other guests off the top, he had the former Veep.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up is because actually it was my wife that pointed this out to me, so I give her credit for it. If you look at Fox News this morning, one of the headlines from the CNN debate last night is that Trump calls Caitlin Collins a nasty person.
Okay.
I'm interested. It's interesting to me because I have that clip right here. It's interesting to me that is the headline that is one of the first articles you can click on Fox News. That story in itself. It was such a throwaway line.
No, it wasn't. I think that as a news person,
Yeah.
that is one of the big lines. And out of all of the entire hour, I really, really wish he had not said that. I cringed because he knows full well that she is under intense pressure. And you think about, she graduated college from University of Alabama.
Yes, she did.
When he was preparing to run, she graduated in 2014 when he was preparing for his 2016 run. He knew the pressure. He knows the control room is in her ear, just riding her, and that he knows all that. To say you are a nasty woman because he's a little aggravated, that to me, that was not a great moment for him.
But she's not alone in that, snarky, nasty demeanor.
She wasn't snarky.
No, I know,
in
but
that
she-
let me just say this. In that clip, and we're gonna play it here in a second. In that clip, I believe she kind of was a little snarky and nasty to him.
A lot of those people on
The
CNN
tone.
are like that. Dana Bash is like that. I think Aaron Burnett is the same way. They just have this miserable, I don't know, just RBF look on their face, resting bleak face.
And this happened at the very end.
Yeah.
Where she had kind of been interrupting him and
Yeah.
fact checking him all night.
He was annoyed.
yeah.
He got annoyed with her,
You're-
but
what you're saying is he handled it not
just
properly.
another word other than, and that's one of his go-tos. You're
Yeah.
nasty. I wish that at some point he would have said, he would have mitigated that if after he said it.
So the conversation actually was talking about the boxes of classified documents, Mar-a-Lago, Biden. That was the context of this clip that I'm about to play.
Joe Biden, they didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And so
took
that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
See, I mean, that.
See, she triggered him with that. She triggered him with that. She brought that on herself.